Hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time around we finished up Invasion of the Dinosaurs. What was that one about?
Well, of all things, it really wasn't about the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
They were a distraction to get London hollowed out, get all the people out, and these rogue scientists have figured out a way to literally twist time backwards so that they would have a new group of people who would populate the world without pollution and anger and all this other stuff. And it seemed a bit overwrought. The dinosaurs were fine except for the T-Rex, which was laughable.
Yeah.
But again, Sarah Jane is proving to be very much in the mold of Barbara from the original Doctor, jumping right in, getting involved in the whole thing, and taking care of business.
Yeah, definitely. It was just an interesting thing with the whole time reversal. Like, we're going to reverse time, and we have this group of people, but they think they're on a new Earth, but somehow they're just going to believe. And I had people trying to defend this to me, of course, and people saying it's like, well, they're die hard in with this story and stuff, so they'll never question. It's like, but the moon is up there. You're gonna start questioning something as soon as you see that moon.
At the very least, the fact that they started waking people up before the spaceship landed, how are they going to get out of the spaceship? Because it's a mock-up, obviously.
Yeah.
The whole story falls apart.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's a good story, but as we kept saying last week, the more you think about it, the looser it falls apart, and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because if there's this whole thing of like, well, they're not going to be taking any of the infrastructure of London, but then would that not just drop, because this whole thing is underground? Wouldn't they just appear underground without any like base that was built in the present day?
Oddly enough, though, and you probably learned about this in history classes, like the ancient city of Troy is today, if they literally have had to dig down like 12 different levels, and it's like the 7th or 8th, I can't remember exactly which one, but they've dug down so far that they found the Troy that was supposedly there during the Trojan War, but there's like 3 or 4 other layers under that to go back all the way to prehistoric times. So, theoretically speaking, if they take London away, the level of ground should also drop to the point where perhaps their spaceship would be exposed. But then, even if it is, it's still a mock-up.
Yeah. Or so many layers will be gone, and they'll just appear about here, and they'll just fall.
Yeah, it's, again, fun story, but you can't think about it. You just have to turn off your brain and say, okay, let's forget about all the problems with this script.
If you had just said it was a time machine, you could pass the time machine off as a spaceship and be like, all right, here we are. But it's the time reversal that doesn't work. But they tried. They were trying a thing.
Yeah.
It just didn't land. And the episode was also, presumably, the exit of Captain Mike Yates, who is, traitor and...
Well, the thing is, he was empathetic to the cause. He thought that there's too much pollution and too much other stuff. But yes, he does turn against everything that he was supposed to be defending in unit.
Yeah.
And at the end, didn't the Brigadier say, we're going to give him dishonorable discharge or something?
It was like medical leave and then a quiet retirement.
Yeah, quiet resignation. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So he was. It's basically the best possible thing you could do for him instead of just throwing the cuffs on and chucking him in a jail. Put him before all the wigs in court and everything. So.
Well, that would be a court-martial, so it'd be a military guy, because I'm assuming that unit operates as a military unit, but either way, yeah.
So they wouldn't have the wigs in a military tribunal?
No.
Okay, because that has appeared in some of the British shows that I've had to watch on here, like Life on Mars and stuff, and I watch it and it's like, I can't take this seriously. These wigs look stupid.
I don't think I have a picture of me in the wig from Witness for the Prosecution, which was an Agatha Christie. But yes, on stage, I had to wear the little white wig as well.
It's very strange. Like, and then it's because, I'm watching that, and then I switch over to Better Call Saul, and it's just people in suits. And it's all fine. Like, the only one who's, like, differently dressed is the judge, and they just have a robe, and whatever. It's just a black robe. Nobody cares.
But that's a tradition that goes back hundreds of years, so that's what they do.
I guess. Well, then presumably wouldn't have America had that too?
No, because remember, America was trying to throw off all things British.
Oh, okay. All right then. I guess I'll take that excuse. So see, we are. I don't know where I was going with that point. So.
When we started drinking coffee instead of tea. I mean, seriously, we literally changed our eating habits so that we wouldn't be like our ancestors.
Well, yeah. Makes you wonder when the accent developed.
Those really didn't start diverging until late 1700s, early 1800s. The New Englanders is really just a variation of British, as is Southern. It's only when we started moving west that we started getting the very different accents of the Midwest.
Oh, yeah.
The upper Midwest, the Great Lakes area, of course, is heavily influenced by Scandinavian. So if you've ever, been up to Minnesota or Wisconsin, someplace like that, that's the reason they talk that way. That actually goes as far west as Nebraska. The people of Nebraska have kind of that hard, I call it the Nebraska sound because it's very brassy.
Well.
And then I think part of that may be also the fact that the wealthy Southerners had the almost closest to British accent that there was. But as you got up into the Appalachians and you got people who literally were living off of eating squirrels and fish out of the rivers and things like that, their accents are the ones that came up with the hillbillies, where you got they're sometimes so heavy you can't even really understand what they're talking about. I mean, Larry the Cable Guy and stuff like that.
Yeah, which the British have that too. So they have their own version of that.
Yes.
Anyway, we're watching Death of the Daleks today. So,
and minor note, we're taping this. I think tomorrow is the anniversary of the Battle of Culloden. And a friend of mine, she watches the Outlander on Starz Network, and I mentioned to her, I said, finally our interests intersect. I told her about how in the Doctor Who series, the Highlanders, Jamie McCrimmon survives the Battle of Culloden, and she wrote me back and said, yes, the person who started the Outlander series was inspired by Doctor Who. I think it's about somebody who goes back in time and lives in the Highlands there of Scotland. So I don't know for sure. I've never watched it, but
that weirdly also sounds like Life on Mars, because that whole thing is, this cop that goes back to 1973. I want that exact show now, but it's a cop going back just to a time he shouldn't be in. It's like, yes, this cop from the modern day will go back to the Highlanders. Good luck with that. So,
well, there's a reverse of that too that was on a couple of years ago. They made a TV series out of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, where Ichabod Crane, instead of being a schoolmaster, was like a policeman, and he came forward into modern times, if I recall correctly. That was the premise of that.
So interesting. All right.
Anyway, did you say Death to the Daleks?
Death to the Daleks, specifically. Yes.
Uh-huh.
A 4-parter. So we'll watch it all on this video.
Oh, okay. And
yeah, I'm not sure what this title could entail, like it's such an out there sort of title. Where last we left the Daleks, it was Planet of the Daleks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So they were all like frozen. You had the Supreme Dalek or whatever being like, we'll melt them out. Maybe they finally got around to that. So
this title literally sounds like an uprising against the Daleks.
Yeah, it does, which could be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Which I guess we had the whole thing with Frontier in Space and then Planet of the Daleks was that they were trying to start a war with the galaxy. So maybe this could be like following up on that. Like, now the people are rising up and you get all these interesting characters that go against them. So I don't know. But let's find out as we get into this episode of Doctor Who. Here we go.
If he struggles up to the camera and says, "It's," then we know this is Monty Python.
Oh, are we sure it's not Monty Python? Oh. Good take.
Doing a roll with an arrow in you, that's pretty good.
The side to the seaside.
Meanwhile,
Don't we have emergency storage cells or something?
Yes, of course.
it's a good thing we had the sunroof open.
To light it and illumine us. There we are.
Oh, hooray for old-fashioned oil.
Well, let's get it adjusted.
I wonder what the difference between
Right,
illumin
let's see where
and
we are.
illuminate
Ferrari,
is.
you said?
Yeah, hold this for a minute. All right.
Yes.
I think you should be more careful about taking an open flame into fog.
Entire planet could be methane gas.
Nah.
What do you want me to do?
Well, I think to begin with, we must check the immediate area, don't you?
I'd say get into some warmer clothes.
Oh, yeah.
Not really dressed for this climate.
There you go.
am I?
Yeah.
For heaven's sake, go.
Well, good job. Ah, I'm so proud of her.
Get cranky.
Well, we found their weakness. Being hit but with a blunt instrument. Soundtrack sounds like someone taking one of those disposable cameras and winding it up.
It's a musical instrument that literally has teeth like a saw, and it's made of wood, and you have a little wooden stick, and you just rub it across there that makes that creepy sound.
It's like Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Very Mesopotamian ziggurat type features there. Long stairways and kind of a big temple pyramid. Well, this doesn't appear to be the same quarry that they normally film at.
Yeah. Give them credit, they found another.
It is Indiana Jones.
No.
Perineum will halt this disease?
Well, it can cure and give immunity. But they need it in quantity, and they need it fast.
If it's not delivered within a month, it'll be too late.
Well, I like that it's not just greed, you know? It's a legitimate reason.
To Earth.
Good chorus.
Well, I didn't realize they had faces. They're kind of spooky. I don't think that's an Earth ship. Oh, this will be awkward.
Come on up, welcome party's all here.
Oh.
Wait a minute! Wait! You can't!
They're not wasting any time. I bet they can't shoot them.
No energy.
No energy. You know, we said a lot about Invasion of the Dinosaurs. There was never a dull moment. Oh, it's fascinating every time we watch a Terry Nation episode now. 'Cause it's like, boy, we just stepped back 10 years.
But, I mean, it's a good story.
It is
It took
interesting.
it took a bit to set up. The first 10 minutes with the Doctor and Sarah Jane were a little, I don't want to say padded, but they were overly long. But once you get into the story, I mean, you got a plague that's going through the outer planets of the galaxy.
Yeah.
This is the only thing that can cure them and basically vaccinate them. But somehow, something in that city is draining the power, and now you got the Daleks showing up, who are, unfortunately or fortunately for us, under the same restrictions as everybody else.
Yeah, it honestly seems like... Because I was thinking, like, okay, so the Daleks are, they're behind something, But it honestly just seems like this would have just been a normal story, but they just included the Daleks anyway. Like, oh, let's just throw them in, see how that would work out, So that is an interesting idea, at least. So, pacing and everything aside, basically. And yeah, the Exelons are a very interesting type of creature,
Yeah.
They're kind of, like, they're not maybe the greatest things to, ever grace the screen, but they are interesting. Like, the sort of wraps, and I guess they are supposed to be sort of like rock creatures, and the faces are very interesting.
Yeah. I caught the tail end of Beneath the Planet of the Apes last night, and very similar to the underground creatures in that.
Yeah, so... and I also like that they're not just mindless animals. Like, they can talk. They have this crazy chant going on and everything. So it's at least an interesting idea going in.
Your weapons are totally useless. Affected by the same energy blackout that has stranded us.
The power failure is temporary. Superior Dalek technology will overcome interference shortly.
You still have lights. How is that possible?
You're not in a position to give any orders. No, we're all in this together. All equal. All powerless.
Yeah, honestly, they shouldn't be able to run their suits at all.
Several of the planets the Daleks have colonized are suffering from the same disease. They're dying in millions. Now, they need that chemical just as badly as you do. That's why I think they'll cooperate.
It was a crazy disease. Maybe this is that space plague they've always talked about.
Lead the way. Lead.
This is weird.
That's no good, he's dead. We can't help him.
But please, we can't leave him here.
Look. Grab the arrows.
Which way did he come from?
I don't know.
Well, follow the arrow. There's something about a hail of arrows that is kind of funny. Jeez! That poor guy.
Target model destroyed. Substitute weaponry functioning satisfactorily. We will proceed immediately.
Oh, so they just have guns now. And they had a little TARDIS model to shoot at. That's an extra level of detail I don't think the Daleks would do.
You're a glory seeker. This may be the last order I give, but I'm appointing Hamilton over you.
I know you're dying, but have a witness. Maybe when you're dying, you're not in the right state of mind, but have a witness. Yay, the Daleks are here. They'll save us.
Inside each of those shells is a living, bubbling lump of hate.
You mean they've got legs?
No, they move by psychokinetic power.
I see.
Do you?
No.
So they're psychically moving them now?
I think they expect that sacrifice to be completed by something else. Something that lives down this tunnel.
Oh no.
It's a Minotaur.
Again.
Next time you get an idea, keep it to yourself, will you? Somebody there?
Nobody here but us monsters.
Nobody here but us Daleks. I mean, the wind. It's like one of the Exelons fused with a Santaran. And a snake of some sort.
Or tentacle with eyes.
Well.
But Galloway did say that there was a breakaway group, so maybe that was one of the rebels, as it were.
Maybe someone who would want to save them. Yeah, it's possible. Well, I mean, still, it is an interesting story. And definitely just with the involvement of the Daleks. Which, that could be the title of its own episode, Involvement of the Daleks. So, it really does... It kind of does feel like you could do this entire story without the Daleks and it'd be exactly the same, but it's interesting. I mean, I guess it's very Indiana Jones too, but
the fact that they adapted their technology to non-electrical,
yeah,
I don't know that the Marine Space Corps could have done that, and the Doctor certainly wouldn't have.
Yeah,
although he could have, he wouldn't have. But yeah, Alliance of the Daleks would have made an even more interesting title.
Yeah, I'm curious about the title Death to the Daleks. It's a weird title, but either way, it's still an interesting story. So, and yeah, I do like that they've adapted to just using guns instead. Like now I want like a Western with Daleks. You know, you've got ones like, oh, well, here's the new sheriff right here, and just a Dalek pushes through, like, the saloon doors with a hat on. So, that'd be funny.
Oh, good shot, son. Yes, a palpable hit.
From Hamlet.
Just safe!
Took the gun.
What did you say, route?
Yes, it must have been one of these sort of underground support systems for the city, I should imagine.
Oh, what happened to the Dalek?
The Route 1. Dalek nil. In fact, this was about the only part of it that was left
Fronds
undamaged.
like these, who needs enemies?
Using all their knowledge, they built a city that would last through all of time.
And they succeeded. It looked as though it was built only yesterday.
They used their sciences to make the city into a living thing. It then had no need of those who had made it. Our people had created a monster. They tried to destroy it. Instead, it destroyed them and drove out the survivors.
Nice to know that the humans didn't do that for once. Jeez.
Yikes.
Just fall. There you go. That was a crazy shot.
Where are your bows and arrows now?
Oop. I like that they're all just kind of looking at each other. I love that they actually put this thing in the water.
Markings like these are... It's one of Earth's great mysteries that no primitive man could possibly have built such a structure. Well, now we've solved it.
Solved how a temple was built in Peru?
You say that your ancestors were traveling in space when other worlds were still primitive.
Well, that is true.
And they almost certainly visited Earth and taught the people there how to build.
Our city
well
supports
done.
itself in two ways.
So Ancient Aliens was right all along.
What is it?
Patrol will leave
His top doesn't match his bottom.
city and
See how he's slightly off there?
survey.
They got this far, then they couldn't pass the next intelligence test.
What test?
I'm not sure yet. All right, well, here goes.
I mean, it seems like that shouldn't be too hard to figure out. It'd be funny if the next one was just like a giant crossword puzzle. Wait, how do they, like, trace with no appendages?
Probably just blasted.
We will trace out this maze with bullets.
Stop, don't move.
Oh god, a floor. What a cliffhanger.
Well, if you step on it and it goes through like
Yeah.
Last Crusade,
Yeah.
that would definitely be a cliffhanger.
Yeah. Oh, need to spell the name of the Supreme Dalek. But in Space Hebrew, it starts with an I. Well, I'm glad this is only 4 episodes, because while a very interesting idea, it is so slow.
Yeah, this last part of going through the mazes. Now, I understand it's intelligence tests, but yeah, you're right. It does seem to be dragging just a little bit.
Well, and also just the fact that Like, all right, intelligence test. Like, okay, maybe the symbols, maybe most people won't see that. But a maze. In all that time, you're really going to die in there because you can't solve a maze. Now, at first I thought, well, maybe if you, like, take a wrong way or if you hit one of the dead ends, then you just die there. But didn't seem to be the case. So, yeah. And, like, look, I'm not big on mazes. If you give me a maze, sure, maybe it'll take me a while, but I will figure it out. Or if you give me a word search or something like that. I don't know.
He hates word searches.
Yep. It just brings up bad school memories of that and crosswords and bingo and don't get me started on that. Hey, the sonic screwdriver.
Tell me, have you ever tried Venusian hopscotch? Well, that's a silly question, you wouldn't have done. Anyway, now's your chance to learn. I want you to do exactly what I do. Right?
We're going to need an episode about going to Venus and learning all this stuff. Oh, well, that's going to trip up the Daleks. They're in a feed.
2, 3, right, jump! Well done. That's rather a jolly game, don't you think?
Jeez!
Tilt.
That's
Right. Let's go and see what
that's an old pinball phrase.
Well, they're screwed. Well, I was gonna say, if they could just fly over it, that'd be good, but...
Alert! Excessive electrical charge received!
Oh. Well, never mind.
Damage report.
I put up an epilepsy warning before that. It's okay, the doctor lived through the 60s. It's like a Jedi.
Our entrance must have created a current of air which broke the surface tension. I think I know a way.
You mean reverse the polarity?
Either that or just start ripping wires out of the wall.
Human female has escaped. I have failed. Female prisoner has escaped. I have failed. I have failed. Self-destruct.
Ah, fluff pillow.
Destruct. I have failed. Destruct.
Jeez, man. Why don't you go after her? Oops.
I will cover you. I will cover you. Faster. Faster. Faster.
Like zombies.
The plague will destroy all life and make further landings here impossible.
If a Dalek could laugh, that's where he would laugh.
For God's sake, use the bomb!
Come on, get out of here quickly. We're caught in the exhaust blast. Come on, out. Come on, quick. Move.
Oh. Galloway's still on board and has the other bomb?
I guess.
Oh, there he is. It's melting.
Good screaming, it sounds like. Well, it's a neat effect, however they did it.
Yeah.
It's rather a pity in a way. Now the universe is down to 699 wonders.
Well, I don't think we learned a thing.
again, it's a good plot, but and again, it's not the director, it's not the actor's fault. The twist at the end with Galloway stowing away on the Dalek ship could have been set up a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's just that it just kind of clunked along.
Yeah. And I mean, like, we have this whole noble sacrifice to defeat the Daleks, but he didn't know that the Perennium wasn't on board there. So why did he do that, I guess?
Well, because, again, being the military man that he is, I mean, that was his job, is to prevent the enemy from succeeding. But again, they didn't set that up well because, he does not act the complete military man. He's, literally, the coward in the whole thing. And there's nothing. There needed to be a moment somewhere in that fourth episode where the kid kept saying to him, you're in charge here because you're the highest ranking, well, I guess he's a non-commissioned officer, but you need to do your duty, man, and that's when he will make the decision to hide away and blow up the Dalek ship. Now, whether the Perennium was on it or not, it was his job to make sure that the Daleks didn't get away.
I guess, yeah. Well, because, I mean, but the whole thing they set up is that he will do anything to get the Perennium because he's, because he wants to save all those lives, But I don't know, I'm just not certain how sacrificing himself against the Daleks, unless it's just because the dying commander said, like, oh, you're a glory seeker, so maybe it's that. Maybe he knew the Perennium was there, or they had enough Perennium, or at the very least, he would destroy the Daleks, which means another Earth ship could show up and get more Perennium if they had. Yeah. And he would be the one who, saved all this medicine from the evil clutches. I almost said the evil hands, but they don't have any, of the Daleks.
The evil plungers.
Yeah, so.
Again, that was a really good concept, just not very well written.
Yeah.
And again, it's no fault of the director or the actors. It just, they didn't have much to work with there.
Yeah. I will be very curious when we rewatch Genesis of the Daleks, because that is written by Terry Nation, and that's coming up next season. Because I do remember that being very good.
Yeah.
But, boy, these last two they've been a little rough,
Yeah.
And
Terry Nation needs some cash. Here, toss off a Dalek script.
He never got that Dalek spin-off off the ground, so he needs to pay rent somehow.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right. Well, again, it's not atrocious. It's not the worst thing we've ever seen.
It's not terrible. It's an interesting idea. It's just really slow and really just... I don't know. It just sort of happens. Like, again, like there's no lesson to be learned. Like, there's nothing... I feel like there's no character arcs for, like, Galloway or anything.
Yeah.
And the whole title of Death to the Daleks, like, that could be interchanged for any other Dalek story, and that would still work. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I almost wonder if this would have been more interesting without the Daleks, if it was just the Exelons and the humans and stuff, because the city was still pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But
you would have, again, needed some kind of outside threat to force the humans and the Exelons to do all that. But yeah, it could have been, like you said, anybody other than bring in a brand new series of evil villains, and it could have worked. I guess it's because we do expect a lot from the Daleks.
Yeah. The Daleks, and especially in modern Doctor Who, or they're supposed to be in modern Doctor Who, they're showstoppers, like when they show up, it's like, okay, this is a bad situation, this is some world ending. It's like in a superhero movie or something when, like, the main big bad guy shows up, like, oh, the Joker's here. Oh no, what do we do?
Yeah.
Which you can honestly say that you could kind of say that about, like, the Master too, like, he sort of fills that role. But yeah, which honestly, if Roger Delgado is still alive, if you swapped out the Daleks for the Master, this might have also worked out a little bit more. But that might just be because that's how good the Master is. Yeah. So, but yeah, like, we do kind of expect more from the Daleks, and the Daleks have always been, even in classic Doctor Who, they're kind of these big event episodes, and pretty much since, I mean, when was the last time they were a big event episode? Maybe, like, I guess, honestly, the Daleks Master Plan, but that was only because that was a big, 11 parts and a Christmas special in the middle, but, so... And, but yeah, say what you will about that one, and we said what we would about that one, but that was at least a big event episode. After that, it's just sort of like, okay, here's the Daleks, they're doing something, I don't know, like, I don't know.
And I know we have criticized Power of the Daleks and Evil of the Daleks, but both of those were better than this.
Yeah.
As a Dalek story.
Yeah, there was at least something going on, like, because the Power of the Daleks, like, the best part of that is the Daleks. Like, everything else with the colony, the Second Doctor, all of that stuff, you can pick apart, and we have, but it's still like there was always something going on. There was something interesting sort of happening, whereas this one, it's like, well, it's an interesting idea that doesn't go anywhere, like nothing.
And again, the idea of what we said right there at the very beginning, the alliance of the Daleks, to have the Daleks realize that for once they had been robbed of their number one power, which was literally electricity, and that they would have to work with the Doctor and with the Earth people, the Marine Space Corps, and the Excelons. That would have been an interesting concept to have them literally pondering that. What are we supposed to do now that we can't do that? Ultimately they do come up with firing the mechanical weapons, which don't require the power. Yeah. But again, that would have been an interesting conversation for the Daleks to go, what do we do now? It never occurred to us, like in the very first one, when they removed the static electricity from the floor, how are we supposed to operate without it?
Yeah. Like, I would almost want this sort of uneasy alliance to have gone throughout the entire thing. When the Doctor and Belial, was that his name? Yeah. When they go into the temple, maybe they have a Dalek with them, and they're trying to figure things out, and they're trying to, they all have different ideas of how things need to be done and stuff, and that could have been kind of interesting, but the entire time, you're always kind of, like, giving them, the side eye, you're looking like, they're thinking about something. They can't do anything yet, and then, because that all leads up to, as soon as the power comes back on, we all start shooting at each other, so we all have to prepare for that moment, and that could have been really interesting.
There are so many loose ends here. The Excelons who worshipped the city disappeared after the second episode.
Yeah, they just sort of became slave labor.
Who was the guy who turned to dust?
I don't know.
Because they set him up watching the Doctor and Belial, and then when they came in, he just, poof, and he disappeared. I mean, seriously, the thought I had was, that was Sir Richard in The Last Crusade. Oh, great, somebody's come here to take my place. Yes. And then he would dissolve, but then nothing happened with that. Then you had the antibodies who were, like zombie Excelons. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, there's too many parts that don't fit with where the main story is going.
Right. And I thought that too, that it was like, oh, now that you've passed all these tests, you're going to take my place and stuff. And that's why he disappeared. But then it just sort of seemed to be like, no, he was just a guy who was sitting there. He died, and then, because the Doctor even says, like, oh, well, when we disturbed the air by opening the door, that destroyed what was left of this guy. And it's like, okay, I guess.
But would have been, again, like you said, the Doctor obviously is the choice there. The twist could have been, he says, no, Belial, you sit there, and, you will help the city, turn off, basically.
Yeah.
But again, it's just it's salad. There's too many ingredients that go nowhere.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when we were talking about, like, kind of working together with the Daleks, it actually reminds me of Star Trek Into Darkness, which is another one of those you don't really want to reference, but it's at least not Star Trek V. So, yeah. But with that one, this is complete spoilers if you've never seen Star Trek Into Darkness. Not
just call him John Harrison.
yes, John Harrison, Benedict Cumberbatch's character in that, he is the villain in that one, but for a while there is sort of this uneasy alliance between him and Kirk, and they're kind of looking over their shoulders, like, you don't know, do you trust this guy, do you not? But on some level, they also kind of get along. Like, if this was a different circumstance, this could be a sort of interesting sort of friendship. And they do play around with that in a lot of Star Trek as well. So you could have gone with something like that. I mean, heck, you look back at Star Trek Voyager, I'm pretty sure Janeway made like a couple deals with the Borg, Yeah. So, like, you could play with that and it could be kind of interesting. But yeah, pretty much at the end of that second episode, the Daleks have invented, guns. And so now they can just use that and take over. And it's like, well, they've completely gotten past the limitation of this planet in a single episode. Like, well, all right. So it's also one of those things where it's like, I'm glad that this was 4 episodes, because if this was any longer, that would have been really brutal.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, well, if you had 6 episodes, but they were 6 good episodes, that would have been really interesting,
And for the first time in a while, I think, the Doctor's left there not getting back into the TARDIS and heading off somewhere else.
Yeah. So
we don't see the conclusion is implied there with the 2 Earth people getting back on their ship, and they're going, and then the Doctor and Sarah Jane get back on the TARDIS. But that was kind of also, it's like, we ended this so quickly, we're not going to be able to have time to get back to the TARDIS. Bye-bye.
Yeah. See all the lights back on in the TARDIS. Sarah Jane can actually go put on an actual outfit or something. So
yeah, because the blue little thing, did she just put something on over?
I'm pretty sure. Yes, she put on like a jacket and a skirt over her swimsuit. So, yeah. Let's see. Okay. So this is like the 10th time they've brought up this space plague. Because they've brought that up, and I keep harping on it for no reason, but they've brought it up since, like, was it Carnival of Monsters last season?
Yeah.
And so they keep bringing this up. I feel like this has to be dealt with at some point, Like, you can't just keep bringing up this space plague,
Yeah.
But I like that the reason the humans are here, mining this stuff is for, like, a good reason. It's none of this, like, well, what was the one with... Oh, it was the mutants, wasn't it? Whereas, like, they had some colony and the guy went nuts, leading it, and then the people, they mutated until one of them became, Technicolor Dreamcoat and stuff like that. But yeah, like, I like on this one that it's like, well, we're here because we're trying to get the perineum, which will have... It will not only cure the people of the disease, but it will also make them immune. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that's really good. And then I actually like that from there, it's like, okay, so what's the sort of shadier side of this? It's that Galloway will do anything to make sure that they get this. And that's an interesting idea because, yes, it's inherently good to get this stuff and cure the millions upon millions of people across these different worlds. But what lines are you crossing in order to do this good thing? He's perfectly willing to let the Doctor and Sarah get sacrificed, and he'll work with the Daleks as much as he can in order to do this. So I kind of like that. And again, if you had focused on that, because that would have been another interesting part of this, because you have the Doctor, he's trying to figure out how to basically get energy back to the TARDIS. You've got the humans trying to get the perineum, the Daleks who are also trying to get the perineum because they're not immune to this disease, and they all have this strange alliance where none of them really likes each other, but they have to work with each other anyway.
Yeah.
So it could have been really interesting. I almost wonder if there was like a novelization to like expand on this episode. So
there probably is. I think, didn't they say Target Books did most of these?
Yeah, I think most episodes, if not all of them, have gotten novelizations. So yeah, it would be interesting. I would be curious about who wrote the novelization, because if it's Terry Nation, I don't know. Man, we've had quite the swing in opinion when Terry Nation's name comes up, Yeah. But some of these have been downers, They haven't been that great.
Well, again, he's been technically writing, even though he had a break in between, but he's been writing these for 11 years now.
Yeah.
And at some point, and we've said this from the very beginning, the biggest problem with the Daleks is that they don't evolve.
Yeah.
Right? They are single-minded, semi-robotic organisms filled with hate, and there's just so far you can go with that.
Yeah.
That's what makes a good villain, is that they're able to adapt and do something new each time.
Yeah. Which is probably why we really enjoyed the Master more than the Daleks. Like, every time, even in a story that wasn't amazing, the Master was always the best part of that. And of course, after that's the acting too.
Yeah.
Because Roger Delgado was that good. But yeah, but Terry Nation, yeah, he has technically been writing for Doctor Who for 11 years, but he really only wrote for the first Doctor, and now, he's coming back having not written Power of the Daleks, or Evil of the Daleks, or Day of the Daleks, or whatever of the Daleks have you. And now he's coming back, and yeah, it's like, it's that expression. It was like, time really hasn't passed, and it's like, but that's not a good thing. Time has passed on this show, and this show is very different from where we started. And yeah, some of these scripts, they just feel really old, which is weird. It's so weird thinking about two different eras of classic Doctor Who, which is already, we're still watching all the old stuff, But yeah, so let's see. We did have the ambush by the Exelons with their bows and arrows, which, where are they getting the wood for that?
Yeah, I didn't see a whole lot of trees there.
Yeah, because the Doctor even said, like, well, if there's life on this planet, it's not because of photosynthesis or anything. So, yeah, that's a good question. But
again, if you were watching it, back in the 70s, you probably wouldn't have thought about that.
I mean, I suppose that maybe it could be made out of bone. Like, I mean, I know that there are some bows that are partly made of wood, so maybe, I don't know. And I don't know why it's just so funny when, you're sort of ducked down and just arrows just appear. I don't know why, just sort of the like, it's just sort of funny. I don't know why. It's like being attacked by someone throwing darts at you or something. It's just kind of silly. So,
but then again, the bad Exelons were also wearing cloth costumes. Cloth is usually made from a plant like cotton or flax or linen.
Yeah.
So where did that come from?
Well, because I thought about that. Because I thought, like, well, maybe the cloth is sort of like their sort of stand-in for their, rock body. But, that's just what they made the costume out of. But then you get others like Bilal who are just, them. They don't have these sort of robes or anything. Yeah. So it's like, so where are you getting the robes? Like, I don't know. And yes, we're thinking about it too much. But we're also thinking about it because then, after this ambush, the Exelons basically do nothing for the rest of this. Like, we had this whole interesting thing with sacrifices and chants and a high priest, and then that just sort of all went out the window. So
yeah, never saw him again.
You know what else we didn't see again? The root things. Like, we saw it twice. We saw one attacking the Doctor, which then killed that one Dalek. And then the other was in that little lake, basically, which was interesting. I liked that they did that, and it was very interesting that they actually had this giant thing that they were puppeteering out of this, water, and lighting that guy on fire. So,
and you were right. First thing you would do if you're on fire is fall into the water.
If he just falls back, he's fine. So.
And by the way, I don't know if you, I may have mentioned this before, the snake-like thing with the eyeball and some kind of flame or some kind of power coming out of it.
Yeah.
That is very reminiscent of the either late 50s or early 60s film War of the Worlds.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember I've seen that. Except I think it's like...
There's a triangle.
Yeah. It's got like a Game of Simon on it.
Yeah.
So...
But actually, it's divided into 3. And yeah, it does have the flame power coming out of it.
Yeah, so...
But again, that plays on man's natural fear of anything that is snake-like.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. That's probably one of the best special effects that was in this entire sequence.
Right. But then, pretty much after that, once they get in this city, like, there's nothing about that. Why would the city let them in? Like, because again, you think that the intelligence tests are, well, now, you will take the place of the person who watches over things.
Yeah.
But no, which, I mean, why would this city need someone to watch over things? Because they said, well, it'll repair itself, it'll maintain itself and stuff like that. So why would you need a watcher? But even then, if you don't have a watcher, what was the point of the intelligence tests? To let people into your main circuit room.
And then create antibodies to kill them.
Yeah, like, there was no point to that. Also, this sort of has the Krypton effect of, like, yes, we had such great technological advancements and we started going all across space. Somehow, though, one thing happened on the home world and we are all gone now. Because that is also the thing with Krypton that doesn't make any sense. Like, yes, we went all across the universe. Then for some reason, one Friday night, we all came back to the planet and it blew up. And only Kal-El made it out, Yeah. But it's the same thing here. It's like we went all across space. We managed to go to Peru and build their pyramids, their structures. Not the Egyptians, though. I guess that's unconfirmed. But we went all across space. But for some reason, we came back right when this machine city took over and I guess wiped most of them out, or
maybe it called them back, if it's the supreme intelligence kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sent out a beacon that said, hey, everybody come home.
Yeah, I guess that could be it. That's also the plot of the backstory of Dragon Ball as well. That except there it's more deliberate, where it's like all these people, they come back to the planet and they're called back specifically so that the main bad guy can just blow them all up. So, but then of course the one baby gets away and becomes Goku. So, anyway. But yeah, so that, I guess, happened to the Exelons, which is strange. But then all of them, the ones that were left, the brown ones specifically, because there's a distinct difference between the look of the ones that worship the city and the ones that don't, which is, there's also a height difference too, which is interesting.
Well, I kind of got the idea that the worshippers of the city stayed underground, and one of the Earth people said that they tend to be nocturnal, whereas it strikes me that Bilal and his people probably went out in the daytime, which somehow turned them lighter skinned.
Maybe.
Which is theoretically the reverse of what would happen on Earth, because people who stay out in the sun tend to have, melatonin, I don't know, something that turns skin darker the longer you're in. And that's why the closer you are to the equator, the darker your skin is, the further away you are. Like the Vikings and the Icelandic people, they tend to be very, very pale skinned and blonde hair and red hair, because they don't have that same kind of photosynthetic, whatever it is with the skin, I don't know.
Yeah, so yeah, there was the tests that allowed them to get in. They're not very hard tests either. Like, I get now, at the very least, we're seeing the Doctor and the Daleks go through, and they are, very intelligent and can get through. They still didn't seem that hard. Like, nothing that you'd be stuck in a room until you're dead sort of tests, So, yeah, you got pretty simple tests. You make it through. Yeah, because even in, like, Last Crusade, when you're going through, not many people can figure that stuff. Honestly, really only Indy can figure that out.
Yeah. And even he didn't, because his father was basically saying, only the penitent man will pass. And at the last second, he goes, the penitent man kneels, and when he kneels down, he nearly gets his head cut off.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, when he takes the step on the J and goes through it, and he thinks, I'm an idiot, Jehovah in Latin starts with an I. Yeah. And then the last one, of course, that's the most heartbreaking one of all, when he looks across this chasm and he sees the picture of the knight walking across, and he goes, it's a leap of faith. And he's already said he doesn't have that kind of faith.
Right.
But his father said, take the leap of faith. So he takes a deep breath, he closes his eyes and steps out, and it's that very narrow little passage. So
right.
That's kind of brilliant. Again, for a kid's show, the average 12-year-old would look at that and go, would I know in a series of symbols which one doesn't fit in, which one is never repeated?
Yeah.
So that would be kind of hard.
Especially when you got a Dalek on your back.
Yeah. And a lot of these mazes, one of the first things is that he figured out that you have to follow the white lines. What if it was just the opposite of that? What if you were supposed to follow the dark lines?
I honestly thought that when he was like, oh, there's an entrance point here. I was looking at the dark spot in between. I was like, is there an entrance point? I don't know. It just kind of looks like a dead end. I was like, oh, wait a minute. You got to go on the light. I get you. So I guess there is that. And then
the hopscotch.
Which honestly...
If he hadn't had his sonic screwdriver, he wouldn't have known that.
Yeah, he wouldn't have known that. But then at the last part, he was able to just get Bilal just jump over it. So I'm almost wondering, it's like, well, if you get enough of a head start, could you just... The point is to not step on the wrong things.
Yeah.
So if you just take a giant long jump, because it's not like in Last Crusade where it's like there is, 20 feet of this that you have to spell out and get over.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, could you just take a flying leap over 5 feet and make it?
Oh, some people could.
Yeah.
But again, to me, he's using a high-tech solution. The real solution would be like in Indiana Jones when he finally scoops up the sand and throws it out on the path, is if you search for some coins or something, you drop one on the white and see what happens, drop one on the red and see what happens, and then when nothing happens on the white, that's when you figure out you have to follow the hopscotch pattern on the white.
Right. And something I just thought, and this is about Last Crusade, and it's a small tangent. In that, spoilers, I guess, if you haven't seen Last Crusade, but he gets past the saw blades and then he jams them up so that they won't hit the Nazis going through, and he throws the sand out on the path so that they know to go across. Did he tell them specifically how to spell Jehovah in Latin so that they could get across?
Well, the female doctor, and then the millionaire, she would have figured that out.
Okay. I guess there was also, like, the 3 holes that he made. So, yeah, I guess that's true. All right. So, plot hole averted in Last Crusade. So,
which, by the way, if you haven't seen, you must see it.
Yeah, I would say it's the best of the 4.
Yes. Especially because he's got Sean Connery.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why it's so good.
Yeah. And I mean, choosing the best Indiana Jones movie, it's not like it's that hard, It's like probably Raiders or Last Crusade. If you say either of them, you're probably right to some degree. Temple of Doom is lesser, but it's really fun. And then the 4th one just...
No, yes.
No.
Yeah.
I never thought the 4th one was terrible. It's not good. It just sort of is.
I thought it was passable right up until the ending. And if you haven't seen the ending, about where the crystal skull comes from.
Yeah. It should have been just more implied than, Yeah. Anyway.
So, hopefully that's about all of it.
Yeah, pretty much the last thing is Galloway's sacrifice, which again is just...
Comes right out of nowhere.
Yeah, like there's no character arc or anything, like, oh, I need to, do this for my crew or something like, or even if there wasn't a character arc, he's just doing this because, he will sacrifice himself because he needs to, make sure that the Perennium gets to where it needs to go or something.
Well, as we've been saying for 11 seasons, one sentence could have changed that. When he and the kid are up on the beacon, and they put the one on there, and he says, hey, go ahead and put the other one in. He goes, no, one's all it needs. If he could have just said, I have an idea for this one. Just anything that could have said to the audience, a setup that said he's going to use that for another purpose.
Yeah, because otherwise he just sort of sacrificed himself. I mean, it was good to, destroy the Daleks there, but at the same time, it's like, I'm just not sure where it came from for him specifically, So,
pardon me.
But yeah, that's all I got. You got anything else?
I got nothing. What's up next?
Next up, we have the Monster of Peladon.
Oh,
we're going back
to Peladon.
Yay!
I wonder if what's his name? Troughton's son is don't know.
Well, that was season 9, so 2 years later.
Yeah.
Could possibly just come on back for that. So, yeah, he may be slightly disappointed that Joe's not here anymore, but Also, if we're going back to Peladon, boy, I hope none of the ambassadors are there, because it's going to be a bit awkward if the Doctor runs into them. So,
Doctor Who?
yeah. But, yeah, we will find out next week. That is pretty much it. With all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around to any of those. There's a playlist for all of our Doctor Who classic reactions, as well as another playlist to something Doctor Who related. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.